Hello there. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Right now, as you settle in, somewhere on the other side of the world, an ancient jungle is breathing in the darkness. Leaves are rustling gently, creatures are calling softly, rivers are flowing beneath endless canopies of green. Jungles are among the richest and most mysterious places on Earth. They cover only a small fraction of the planet, yet they hold more life than any other environment. Trees stretch hundreds of feet toward the sky. Vines curl endlessly between them, and hidden within the leaves are creatures so unusual they seem almost otherworldly. These green realms are not just forests. They are living engines that create their own weather, recycle their own rain, and harbor secrets that science has only begun to uncover. Tonight, we journey into the quiet world of the jungle. We will explore over 100 soothing facts about these magnificent ecosystems, from the towering trees of the Amazon to the hidden creatures of the rainforest floor, from glowing fungi to rivers that boil. There is no test at the end, no rush, no urgency, just the gentle unfolding of the green world to carry you softly towards sleep. So let your breathing slow, let your thoughts grow quiet, and allow yourself to drift into the peaceful wonder of the jungle. Welcome to Drowsy Discovery. I am glad you found your way here tonight. Perhaps you have had a long day. Perhaps you simply enjoy falling asleep to thoughts about the remarkable life thriving in tropical forests around the world. Either way, this space is for you. There is something deeply calming about contemplating the jungle. Every tree, every creature, every tangled vine carries within it a story millions of years in the making. You are part of that story. The same air you breathe tonight has been filtered through those endless leaves. The oxygen in your lungs began as a breath from the forest. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is relax. So settle in, let the weight of the day drift away, and let us begin with the first of many quiet truths about jungles. The jungle is patient beyond measure. Trees grow slowly over centuries, vines climb inch by inch toward the light, life cycles unfold across generations, and yet, within all that patience, there are sudden bursts of wonder, flowers that bloom once in decades, creatures that flash with brilliant color, seeds that explode into the undergrowth. Tonight, we will wander through this magnificent green world. We will meet creatures that glow in the darkness. We will discover plants that can sense touch, and we will uncover truths about jungles that may surprise even the most curious minds. But there is no hurry. The jungle has been growing since long before humans walked the earth. It can continue its quiet work while you rest. Let us begin with the wonders hidden within the trees. A single jungle tree can support over 2,000 species. The towering giants of the tropical forest are not merely trees, but vertical ecosystems unto themselves, each one hosting an astonishing variety of life from roots to crown. A single large tree in the Amazon or Southeast Asian jungles can provide habitat for more than 2,000 different species, including insects, birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and countless plants. Orchids cling to branches, ferns sprout from bark crevices, and bromeliads collect pools of water that become homes for tadpoles and insects. Monkeys nest in the canopy, while woodpeckers hollow out trunks for shelter. Every layer of the tree supports different communities, from soil organisms feeding on fallen leaves to butterflies basking on sunlit upper branches. The bark itself hosts lichens, mosses, and fungi that form complex mini-ecosystems. When such a tree falls, the loss ripples through thousands of interconnected lives. These living towers remind us that biodiversity often concentrates in vertical space as much as horizontal. The Amazon rainforest produces much of its own rainfall. Unlike most terrestrial ecosystems that depend entirely on oceanic moisture for precipitation, the Amazon rainforest has evolved to generate a significant portion of its own rain through a remarkable process called transpiration recycling. Trees draw water from the soil through their roots and release it as vapor through millions of microscopic pores in their leaves. This moisture rises into the atmosphere, condenses into clouds, and falls again as rain, often within the same forest region. Scientists estimate that nearly half of the rainfall in the Amazon basin originates from the forest itself rather than from the Atlantic Ocean. This self-sustaining water cycle creates a feedback loop where the forest literally waters itself. The process is so powerful that it influences weather patterns across South America and beyond. Deforestation disrupts this cycle, potentially leading to permanent drying of regions that have been rainforests for millions of years. The Amazon is not just a forest that receives rain, but an engine that produces it. Some jungle vines grow longer than 200 feet. The climbing plants of tropical forests, known collectively as lianas, represent some of the longest continuous growths in the plant kingdom, with individual specimens stretching more than 60 meters through the canopy. These woody vines begin life on the forest floor and spend decades climbing toward the light, wrapping around trees, sending out tendrils, and connecting distant crowns in a vast aerial network. Unlike the trees they climb, lianas invest minimal energy in supporting trunks, instead using their hosts as scaffolding while directing resources toward length and leaf production. Some lianas become so massive that they persist even after the trees that supported them have died and rotted away, standing as hollow spirals in the forest. These vines play crucial ecological roles, providing highways for arboreal animals, binding trees together during storms, and connecting distant parts of the forest into a continuous habitat. The longest lianas can span multiple tree crowns, creating bridges that monkeys and other creatures use to travel without descending to the dangerous forest floor. Certain fish in the Amazon can climb trees. In the flooded forests of the Amazon basin, where water levels can rise and fall by more than 10 meters between seasons, some fish have evolved remarkable abilities to leave the water entirely and climb onto land. The climbing catfish and several related species possess modified pectoral fins that function almost like arms, allowing them to grip bark and pull themselves up out of the water. These fish can breathe air through modified gills and specialized organs, surviving for extended periods outside their aquatic environment. During the flood season, they may climb into submerged vegetation to access fruits and insects that normally live in trees. Some species even use this ability to move between isolated pools during the dry season when rivers fragment into disconnected ponds. The sight of a fish climbing a tree trunk seems impossibly improbable, yet it represents a perfectly logical adaptation to the unique conditions of seasonally flooded tropical forests. These climbing fish remind us that evolution can blur the boundaries between seemingly distinct environments. More species live in jungles than in all other biomes combined. Tropical rainforests cover less than 6% of Earth's land surface, yet they harbor more than half of all known species, making them the most biologically diverse terrestrial ecosystems on the planet. This astonishing concentration of life includes millions of insect species, tens of thousands of plant species, and countless fungi, microbes, and other organisms yet to be catalogued. The combination of warmth, moisture, and year-round growing conditions creates opportunities for life to diversify into nearly every conceivable niche. Scientists continue to discover new species at remarkable rates, with thousands of previously unknown organisms identified each year in tropical forests. Some estimates suggest that the majority of jungle species remain scientifically undescribed, meaning we have only catalogued a fraction of the life these forests contain. This biodiversity represents an irreplaceable library of evolutionary solutions to the challenges of survival. The jungles are not merely species-rich, but represent the primary repository of terrestrial life on Earth. Jungle soundscapes can rival the noise levels of busy cities. The acoustic environment of a healthy tropical rainforest can reach decibel levels comparable to urban traffic, with the combined calls of insects, frogs, birds, and mammals creating a continuous symphony of sound. This chorus serves vital ecological functions, as countless species use vocalizations to attract mates, defend territories, and communicate with family groups. The jungle soundscape is not random noise, but a carefully orchestrated partition where different species call at different frequencies, volumes, and times to avoid interfering with each other. Cicadas may dominate certain frequency bands while tree frogs occupy others, and different bird species have evolved calls that cut through specific acoustic niches. At dawn and dusk, the volume can become almost overwhelming as diurnal and nocturnal creatures overlap in their calling. Scientists have begun using acoustic monitoring to assess forest health, finding that damaged ecosystems show distinctly impoverished soundscapes. The roar of the jungle is a measure of its vitality, a living symphony produced by millions of individual performers. Some palm trees appear to walk slowly across the forest floor. In the tropical forests of Central and South America, the walking palm has captured imaginations with its remarkable stilt roots that seem to carry the tree across the forest floor over time. The palm grows new roots on one side, while old roots on the opposite side die and decay, creating the impression of slow locomotion through the undergrowth. While the actual rate of any movement is glacially slow and debated among scientists, the visual effect is striking, with trunks clearly displaced from their original positions over years. The stilt root system serves clear purposes regardless of any walking ability, providing stability in the soft, unstable soils of tropical forests and allowing the palm to compete for light by repositioning itself relative to gaps in the canopy. Whether these palms truly walk or merely shift position incrementally, they represent a fascinating adaptation to the competitive environment of the jungle floor. The walking palms remind us that even trees can display behaviors we typically associate with mobile organisms. The canopy holds hidden pools of water high above the ground. High in the tropical forest canopy, where branches spread and plants accumulate, hidden pools of water form miniature aquatic ecosystems suspended far above the earth. Bromeliads and other epiphytic plants collect rainwater in their cup-shaped leaf arrangements, creating reservoirs that can hold several liters each. These aerial pools become complete ecosystems, housing tadpoles, mosquito larvae, small crabs, and countless invertebrates that spend their entire lives in the canopy without ever touching the ground. Some frogs climb dozens of meters to deposit their eggs in these protected pools, where their tadpoles develop safely away from ground-level predators. The accumulated organic matter in these reservoirs provides nutrients for the host plant and food for the creatures living within. Researchers have discovered new species of aquatic organisms exclusively adapted to canopy pools, demonstrating that these suspended waters constitute distinct habitats. These hidden reservoirs represent one of the jungle's many vertical ecosystems, stacked layers of habitat extending from forest floor to highest branches. Trees release chemicals that help form clouds above the forest. The relationship between tropical forests and the atmosphere extends beyond simple water cycling to include complex chemical interactions that influence weather patterns. Trees release volatile organic compounds called biogenic aerosols, which rise into the atmosphere and serve as condensation nuclei around which water vapor can form droplets. These tree-produced chemicals literally seed the clouds that form above the forest, contributing to precipitation patterns that extend far beyond the forest boundaries. The process creates a feedback loop where healthy forests produce the conditions necessary for their own continued existence. Different tree species release different compounds, and forest composition can affect the type and timing of cloud formation. Scientists have discovered that heavily forested regions produce distinctly different cloud structures than deforested areas, with implications for regional climate. The trees are not passive recipients of rainfall, but active participants in atmospheric processes that determine their own water supply. This chemical connection between canopy and cloud represents one of the jungle's most sophisticated survival strategies. A single square mile of jungle can contain 50,000 insect species. The insect diversity of tropical rainforests staggers the imagination, with individual small areas harboring more species than entire temperate countries. A single square mile of healthy jungle can support tens of thousands of distinct insect species, from microscopic mites to beetles the size of a human hand. This abundance reflects the extraordinary number of niches available in a three-dimensional forest environment where every plant species provides unique food sources, shelter, and microhabitats. Many jungle insects are extreme specialists, adapted to feed on specific plants or prey on particular organisms. The canopy alone may host insect communities entirely distinct from those of the understory or forest floor just meters below. Most of these species remain scientifically undescribed, unknown to science, and potentially disappearing before ever being catalogued. Researchers sampling single trees have discovered dozens of previously unknown beetle species. The small fraction of jungle insect diversity we have documented suggests that total species numbers far exceed current estimates. These teeming multitudes form the foundation of jungle food webs and drive countless ecological processes. Leafcutter ants farm fungi in underground chambers. Deep beneath the jungle floor, leafcutter ants maintain some of the most sophisticated agricultural operations in the animal kingdom, farming specialized fungi in vast underground chambers. These remarkable insects do not eat the leaves they harvest, but instead use them as substrate on which to grow fungal gardens that serve as their primary food source. A single leafcutter colony can contain millions of individual ants working in highly organized roles, from large soldiers guarding foraging trails to tiny gardeners tending the fungal crops. The ants carefully regulate temperature, humidity, and ventilation in their chambers to optimize fungal growth. They even produce natural antibiotics to protect their crops from competing molds and parasitic fungi. The relationship between leafcutter ants and their cultivated fungi represents true domestication, with neither species able to survive without the other. Some leafcutter colonies have been farming the same fungal lineage for millions of years. These underground farmers remind us that agriculture is not a uniquely human invention, but an evolutionary strategy that emerged independently in the insect world. Poison dart frogs carry enough toxin to kill large animals. The brilliantly colored poison dart frogs of Central and South American jungles are among the most toxic creatures on Earth, with some species carrying enough poison to kill multiple adult humans. The golden poison frog of Colombia is considered the most poisonous, with toxins concentrated in glands beneath its skin that can cause paralysis and death in most predators. These frogs do not produce their toxins internally, but rather accumulate them from the insects they eat, particularly ants and mites, that themselves obtain toxic compounds from jungle plants. Captive-raised poison dart frogs, fed different diets, typically lose their toxicity entirely. The bright colors of these frogs serve as honest warnings to potential predators, advertising their deadly nature through a strategy called aposematism. Indigenous peoples have traditionally used these toxins on hunting darts and arrows, giving the frogs their common name. Scientists studying these toxins have discovered compounds with potential medical applications, including novel painkillers. The tiny poison dart frog demonstrates how even the smallest jungle creatures can possess formidable defenses. The Amazon contains more than 400 billion individual trees. Recent scientific estimates have revealed the staggering scale of the Amazon rainforest, with researchers calculating that the basin contains approximately 400 billion individual trees, representing roughly 16,000 different species. This number exceeds the total tree count of many other major forest regions combined. The most abundant trees are palms, followed by various legumes and members of the Brazil nut family, each species occupying distinct ecological niches. Cataloging this many trees required combining ground surveys across thousands of plots with satellite imagery and statistical modeling. Even with advanced methods, thousands of Amazonian tree species remain rare enough to have been encountered only once or twice by scientists. The sheer scale of the forest means that individual trees far from any human settlement may live and die without ever being seen by human eyes. This vast population of trees collectively processes more carbon dioxide and produces more oxygen than any other terrestrial ecosystem. The 400 billion trees of the Amazon represent a biological mass of nearly inconceivable proportions. Some jungle flowers bloom only once every several decades. Among the strangest life cycles in the plant kingdom are those of certain jungle species that grow for decades before producing a single spectacular flowering event and then dying. The Talipot palm of Southeast Asia and the similar species found in South American rainforests may grow for 30 to 80 years before blooming just once. When these plants finally flower, the event is massive, with enormous inflorescences containing millions of individual flowers that attract pollinators from throughout the surrounding forest. The entire stored energy of decades of growth is poured into this single reproductive effort. After flowering and setting seed, the parent plant dies, having completed its only chance at reproduction. This strategy, called semelparity, represents a dramatic gamble on reproductive success. The synchronized flowering of certain bamboo species follows similar patterns, with entire populations blooming simultaneously across vast areas after decades of vegetative growth. These patient plants remind us that jungle life operates on timescales that dwarf human experience. Strangler figs can slowly kill the trees they grow upon. The strangler figs of tropical forests begin life as innocent seeds deposited by birds in the branches of established trees, but they eventually become the executioners of their hosts. The seedling sends roots down the trunk of its host tree while growing branches upward toward the canopy light. Over years and decades, the descending roots multiply and fuse together, forming a meshwork that gradually encircles and compresses the host trunk. Meanwhile, the fig's expanding crown shades out the host tree's foliage. Eventually, the original tree dies and rots away, leaving a hollow strangler fig standing in its place, supported by its own now substantial trunk structure. This process can take decades, a slow-motion drama of botanical competition playing out across human lifetimes. Despite their deadly nature, strangler figs provide enormous ecological benefits, producing fruits throughout the year that sustain countless birds and mammals when other food is scarce. The hollow centers of mature stranglers provide shelter for animals and unique microhabitats within the forest. These trees are simultaneously destroyers and providers. A jaguar's bite can crush through a turtle's shell. The jaguar stands as the apex predator of South American jungles, possessing the most powerful bite relative to body size of any big cat and one of the strongest of all mammals. This incredible jaw strength allows jaguars to employ a unique hunting strategy, biting directly through the skulls of prey to pierce the brain rather than the throat attacks typical of other big cats. Their robust skull structure and massive jaw muscles enable them to crack turtle shells, caiman skulls, and the tough hides of capybaras with relative ease. This adaptation reflects the diversity of prey available in their jungle environment, where hard-shelled creatures are common. Jaguars are excellent swimmers and frequently hunt in rivers and flooded forests where turtles and caimans are abundant. Their spotted coat provides camouflage in the dappled light of the forest understory. Unlike many big cats, jaguars are largely solitary and silent, moving through their territory like shadows. The jaguar's crushing bite represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement as the jungle's supreme predator. The sensitive plant curls its leaves when touched. Among the more remarkable displays in the plant kingdom is the rapid leaf movement of the sensitive plant, which folds its delicate compound leaves within seconds of being touched. This tropical species, found in jungles worldwide, responds to physical contact through a mechanism involving rapid changes in water pressure within specialized cells at the base of each leaflet. When triggered, water rushes out of these motor cells, causing the leaflet to collapse downward, and the response cascades along the leaf in a visible wave. The entire process takes just a few seconds, far faster than most plant movements. Scientists believe this rapid folding may serve to startle herbivorous insects or make the plant appear less appetizing by revealing the thorny stem beneath. The leaves slowly reopen over the following minutes as the cells refill with water. This touch response demonstrates that plants are far more sensitive and responsive to their environment than commonly assumed. The sensitive plant shows that movement is not restricted to the animal kingdom. Termite mounds in jungles can grow taller than humans. The architectural achievements of tropical termites rival any human construction when considered relative to the size of their builders, with some mound structures exceeding 6 meters in height. These towers are not simply piles of soil, but sophisticated engineering projects with climate control systems, ventilation shafts, and structural reinforcement. The interior chambers maintain remarkably stable temperatures and humidity levels regardless of external conditions, protecting the termite colony and the fungal gardens many species cultivate for food. Some mounds incorporate reinforced walls that resist weathering and predator attacks for decades. The construction materials, consisting of soil mixed with termite saliva, can become nearly as hard as concrete when dried. Building such structures requires the coordinated labor of millions of worker termites over many years. Famous termite mounds in African and Australian savannas demonstrate similar engineering, but jungle species face unique challenges of constant moisture and dense vegetation. These towering insect cities demonstrate collective intelligence and engineering capability that continues to inspire human architects and engineers. Jungle humidity can approach 100%. The moist, heavy air of tropical rainforests represents some of the most humid conditions on Earth, with relative humidity routinely approaching saturation levels, particularly in the understory and during nighttime hours. This extreme moisture affects every aspect of jungle life, from the types of organisms that can survive there to the decomposition of fallen materials. Fungi and bacteria thrive in these conditions, rapidly breaking down dead plant matter and recycling nutrients back into the ecosystem. However, this same moisture makes life challenging for many visitors, promoting bacterial and fungal growth on equipment, clothing, and skin. Animals have evolved various adaptations to cope with constant dampness, including water-repellent fur and feathers and respiratory systems suited to saturated air. The high humidity contributes to the jungle's characteristic misty atmosphere, where visibility may be limited even in daylight. This moisture is constantly cycling between the vegetation and atmosphere through transpiration and precipitation. Living in the jungle is essentially living immersed in a warm, wet blanket of tropical air. A river in the Peruvian Amazon flows hot enough to cause burns. Deep in the Peruvian jungle, a tributary of the Amazon called the Shanay-Timpishka runs at temperatures hot enough to kill animals that fall into it and cause severe burns to humans who touch the water. This so-called boiling river stretches for several kilometers, with water temperatures reaching up to 90 degrees Celsius in the hottest sections. Unusually, the river is not located near any active volcano or obvious geothermal source that would explain its extreme temperature. Scientists believe the heat originates from geothermal water rising along deep fault lines, heated by the Earth's interior and traveling hundreds of kilometers underground before emerging here. Local indigenous peoples have known about the river for centuries and consider it sacred, with a role in their traditional medicine and spiritual practices. The river supports a unique ecosystem of heat-tolerant organisms along its edges where temperatures are survivable. Animals that accidentally enter the hot water are instantly incapacitated. This natural wonder demonstrates that the jungle still holds geological mysteries. Less than 2% of sunlight reaches the forest floor. The multi-layered canopy of a mature tropical rainforest intercepts sunlight so efficiently that the forest floor exists in permanent deep shade, receiving less than 2% of the light that strikes the treetops above. This dramatic light gradient creates distinct vertical zones, each with its own community of adapted species. Plants growing on the forest floor have evolved enormous leaves to capture whatever dim light filters through, along with the ability to survive in conditions that would starve most vegetation. The quality of light changes as it passes through the canopy, with certain wavelengths absorbed by leaves above, giving the forest floor its characteristic greenish dim glow. When a large tree falls, the resulting gap creates a burst of light that triggers explosive competition among seeds and seedlings racing to claim the opening. These light gaps are essential for forest regeneration and biodiversity. The darkness of the forest floor contrasts dramatically with the sun-drenched upper canopy just dozens of meters overhead. Living beneath the jungle canopy means adapting to conditions of perpetual twilight. Trees communicate through underground networks of fungi. Beneath the apparent stillness of the jungle floor lies a vast communication and resource-sharing network formed by symbiotic fungi that connect the roots of different trees. These mycorrhizal networks, sometimes called the Wood Wide Web, allow trees to share nutrients, water, and chemical signals with each other across considerable distances. Mother trees can recognize their own seedling offspring through these networks and preferentially share resources with them. When a tree is attacked by insects, it may send chemical warning signals through the fungal network, allowing neighboring trees to prepare defensive compounds before the threat reaches them. Dying trees have been observed dumping their remaining carbon and nutrients into the network, effectively bequeathing their resources to survivors. The fungal partners benefit by receiving sugars produced by the trees through photosynthesis. This underground internet operates entirely out of sight, connecting individual trees into forest-wide communities. The discovery of these networks has transformed our understanding of forests from collections of competing individuals to interconnected organisms working cooperatively. Certain jungle bats pollinate flowers at night. While bees and butterflies rest, an entirely different guild of pollinators takes over the night shift in tropical jungles, with bats visiting flowers specially adapted to attract them. Bat-pollinated flowers typically open after dark, display pale or white colors visible in dim light, and produce strong, musky scents that attract their flying mammalian visitors. These blooms often position themselves prominently on bare branches or hang below the canopy to accommodate bat flight patterns. The flowers produce copious nectar to reward their visitors, and in return, bats carry pollen from plant to plant as they feed throughout the night. Some bat species have evolved elongated snouts and tongues specifically for reaching deep into tubular flowers. Many economically important tropical plants, including wild bananas, mangoes, and agave, depend partially or entirely on bat pollination. In some jungle ecosystems, bats are the primary pollinators for more flowering plants than all other animals combined. These nocturnal flying mammals are essential to the reproduction of countless jungle plant species. The harpy eagle has talons larger than a grizzly bear's claws. Soaring through the canopy of Central and South American rainforests, the harpy eagle ranks among the most powerful avian predators on Earth, possessing talons that rival those of large bears in size. These massive curved claws, measuring up to 13 centimeters long, can exert crushing force capable of shattering the bones of prey animals. Harpy eagles specialize in hunting tree-dwelling mammals, including monkeys, sloths, and opossums, snatching them from branches with devastating strikes. Despite their size, harpy eagles navigate through dense forest canopy with remarkable agility, threading between branches at high speed during pursuits. A single eagle requires enormous territory to find sufficient prey, with breeding pairs defending ranges of several hundred square kilometers. Females are significantly larger than males, a common pattern in raptors where size enhances hunting capability. The distinctive gray and white plumage provides camouflage against the dappled light of the forest canopy. The harpy eagle represents the pinnacle of aerial predation in jungle environments. A single leaf can host an entire microecosystem. The surface of a jungle leaf may appear simple at first glance, but closer examination reveals a complex world of miniature inhabitants forming complete ecological communities. Microscopic organisms, including bacteria, fungi, algae, and single-celled animals, colonize leaf surfaces in layers, creating what scientists call the phyllosphere. Tiny invertebrates including mites, springtails, and insect larvae graze on these microbial communities, while predatory mites and spiders hunt among the leaf hairs. Some leaves host specialized communities of organisms found nowhere else, adapted to the unique chemistry and microclimate of particular plant species. The waxy cuticle of the leaf surface, tiny hairs, and chemical secretions all create distinct microhabitats for different organisms. These leaf ecosystems cycle nutrients, process waste, and may even benefit the host plant by outcompeting harmful pathogens. Rain and wind constantly disturb these communities, requiring rapid recolonization and making leaf surfaces surprisingly dynamic environments. Every leaf in the jungle carries its own invisible world of life. Sloths grow algae in their fur for camouflage. The famously slow-moving sloths of Central and South American jungles carry entire ecosystems in their shaggy coats, including specialized algae that tint their fur green for camouflage. The grooved structure of sloth hair is uniquely suited to hosting these algae, which thrive in the humid jungle conditions. The green coloration helps sloths blend with the foliage where they spend their entire lives, providing crucial protection from predators, including harpy eagles and jaguars. Beyond algae, sloth fur hosts a remarkable community of organisms, including moths, beetles, and fungi that exist nowhere else. Some of these creatures appear to have co-evolved with sloths over millions of years. The sloths descend from the canopy roughly once a week to defecate at the base of trees, and during these risky trips, the moths living in their fur deposit eggs in the dung. The resulting moth larvae eventually crawl back up to find a sloth host. This complex relationship demonstrates how thoroughly jungle species become intertwined through evolution. Some plants can launch their seeds more than 30 feet. In the competitive environment of the jungle floor, some plants have evolved remarkable mechanisms for dispersing their seeds across considerable distances through explosive projection. The sandbox tree of South America produces pumpkin-shaped seed capsules that dry and split with explosive force, launching seeds at speeds approaching 70 meters per second and covering distances of more than 10 meters. The sudden crack of exploding seed pods can be startling in an otherwise quiet forest. Other species, including impatiens and squirting cucumbers, use similarly dramatic mechanisms, building pressure within fruit structures until violent rupture occurs. This ballistic seed dispersal helps plants colonize new areas beyond the competing vegetation already established around the parent plant. Seeds launched with such force can clear understory obstacles and reach light gaps where successful germination is more likely. The mechanisms driving these explosions include differential drying of fruit layers, pressure from internal gels, and spring-like tissue arrangements. These botanical cannons demonstrate the extraordinary solutions plants have evolved for reproduction. Certain snakes can glide from tree to tree. Among the most unexpected inhabitants of Southeast Asian jungles are flying snakes that launch themselves from high branches and glide through the air to reach distant trees. These paradise tree snakes flatten their bodies into ribbon-like shapes, creating aerodynamic profiles that generate lift during their descents. By undulating through the air in S-shaped motions, they can actually steer their glides to avoid obstacles and land on target branches. Some flying snakes can travel horizontal distances exceeding their launch height, making them true gliders rather than simply falling with style. This ability allows rapid travel through the forest canopy without the dangerous journey to the forest floor and back up. Flying snakes are active hunters, preying on lizards, frogs, and small mammals throughout the canopy. Scientists have studied their gliding mechanics extensively, finding that their aerial undulation actually improves stability and extends glide distance. Despite their alarming name, these mildly venomous snakes pose little threat to humans. Flying snakes represent one of the jungle's most remarkable adaptations. Jungle caves can house millions of bats. Beneath jungle landscapes around the world, cave systems shelter bat colonies numbering in the millions, representing some of the largest aggregations of mammals on Earth. Deer Cave in Borneo hosts up to 3 million wrinkle-lipped bats that emerge each evening in a living stream that takes hours to exit completely. Bracken Cave in Texas, though not jungle, demonstrates similar scales possible in tropical regions. These massive roosts provide warmth, protection from predators, and proximity to feeding grounds. The accumulated droppings of millions of bats over thousands of years create deep guano deposits that support unique cave ecosystems, including specialized insects, fungi, and bacteria. Cave-dwelling bats play crucial ecological roles in surrounding jungles, consuming vast quantities of insects nightly and pollinating countless flowers. Some bat caves have been occupied continuously for millions of years, with fossil evidence of ancient bat species preserved in the guano deposits. The evening exodus of bats from such caves creates spectacular natural phenomena. These underground bat cities demonstrate the enormous population scales tropical ecosystems can support. Some ants explode to defend their colonies. Among the most dramatic examples of self-sacrifice in the insect world are exploding ants, found in Southeast Asian jungles, that rupture their own bodies to spray toxic defensive chemicals on attackers. These ants possess enlarged glands running the length of their bodies filled with sticky, toxic secretions. When threatened by predators or competing ant species, they violently contract their muscles until their bodies burst, showering the attacker with irritating substances. This suicidal defense is typically employed against threats to the colony that the individual ant could not otherwise defeat. The behavior follows the logic of kin selection, where sacrificing one's own life to protect thousands of closely related colony mates makes genetic sense. Different species of exploding ants produce different defensive cocktails, some more corrosive and others more adhesive. Workers specializing in this defensive role may have even larger glands than their nestmates. This extreme defensive strategy demonstrates how intensely competitive jungle ecosystems can be. The exploding ant represents ultimate self-sacrifice for the common good. The Amazon River carries a fifth of the world's freshwater. The Amazon River system represents the largest freshwater network on Earth, carrying approximately 20% of all river water flowing into the world's oceans. This single drainage basin moves more water than the next several largest rivers combined, with its mouth discharging enough freshwater to push back saltwater for more than 100 kilometers into the Atlantic Ocean. During the wet season, the main channel can stretch to more than 40 kilometers in width, transforming entire regions into vast flooded forests. More than 1,000 tributaries feed the Amazon, some of which would rank among the world's great rivers if counted independently. The sheer volume of water shapes ecosystems across an area nearly the size of Australia, supporting the planet's greatest concentration of freshwater fish species. The sediment carried by the river creates new land at its delta, constantly reshaping the coastline. Human communities along its length have adapted their entire lives to the river's annual flooding cycle. The Amazon's freshwater pulse influences ocean currents and weather patterns far beyond South America. Butterflies drink the tears of turtles for salt. In one of nature's more poetic interactions, butterflies in the Amazon basin gather on the heads of yellow-spotted river turtles to drink the salty tears that collect in their eyes. This behavior, called lacrophagy, provides butterflies with sodium and other minerals that are scarce in their usual diet of flower nectar and rotting fruit. The turtles, which obtain ample salt from their carnivorous diet of aquatic creatures, seem largely unbothered by their colorful visitors. Photographers have captured remarkable images of turtles seemingly adorned with living butterfly jewelry as multiple individuals drink simultaneously. Some researchers have observed turtles closing their eyes to dislodge particularly persistent butterflies, while others appear to tolerate the attention passively. Moths, bees, and other insects also engage in tear drinking from various animals throughout tropical regions. The butterflies must balance delicately on their hosts while feeding, sometimes using their long proboscises to reach the eye area without landing directly on the turtle's face. This gentle interaction demonstrates the unexpected ways jungle species depend upon one another. Some tree frogs can survive being frozen solid. While tropical tree frogs live in warm environments, Their relatives in temperate and boreal forests have evolved a remarkable survival strategy involving the ability to survive being literally frozen solid during winter. Wood frogs and related species produce natural antifreeze compounds, primarily glucose and urea, that protect their cells from the ice crystals that would otherwise rupture cell membranes. During freezing, ice forms in the spaces between cells and organs, while the cells themselves remain unfrozen but dehydrated. The frog's heart stops beating, its breathing ceases, and brain activity halts, yet the animal is not dead, merely suspended. When spring temperatures rise, the frogs thaw from the inside out, their hearts resuming their rhythm within hours. This remarkable adaptation allows these species to survive temperatures that would kill most vertebrates. Scientists study freeze-tolerant frogs, hoping to improve organ preservation for human transplantation medicine. The ability to survive death-like freezing and emerge unharmed represents one of nature's most extraordinary survival strategies. These amphibians blur the line between living and frozen preservation. Jungle orchids make up one of the largest plant families on Earth. The orchid family represents one of the most diverse groups of flowering plants, with estimates suggesting there may be more than 25,000 species worldwide, the majority found in tropical rainforests. These remarkable plants have evolved an extraordinary range of forms, from ground-dwelling species to epiphytes that spend their entire lives clinging to tree branches high in the canopy. Orchid flowers display perhaps the greatest variety of shapes, colors, and fragrances in the plant kingdom, each adapted to attract specific pollinators. Some orchid flowers mimic female insects so convincingly that males attempt to mate with them, transferring pollen in the process. The seeds of orchids are among the smallest in the plant kingdom, requiring symbiotic fungi to germinate successfully. Many orchid species form highly specific relationships with particular fungal partners, which helps explain why they are difficult to cultivate and vulnerable to habitat disturbance. New orchid species continue to be discovered regularly as scientists explore remote jungle areas. The diversity of orchids reflects the creative pressure of evolution in tropical environments. Certain caterpillars mimic the appearance of snakes. Among the most startling examples of protective mimicry in the insect world are caterpillars that transform themselves into convincing replicas of venomous snakes when threatened. The hawk moth caterpillar of Central and South America can inflate its thorax to display a remarkable snakehead pattern, complete with apparent eyes, scales, and even the triangular shape characteristic of pit vipers. When disturbed, these caterpillars may strike at perceived threats in snake-like motions, enhancing the illusion. The deception is so convincing that birds and other predators often flee from what appears to be a dangerous reptile. This mimicry involves no actual venom or physical danger, relying entirely on the predator's fear of snakes to provide protection. The eye spots on the caterpillar are positioned and colored to create the impression of depth and alertness seen in real snake eyes. Some species add hissing sounds produced by forcing air through their bodies to complete the performance. This elaborate disguise demonstrates the powerful selective pressure predation places on vulnerable prey species. Bioluminescent fungi glow softly on the forest floor. In the darkness of the jungle night, certain species of fungi produce their own soft greenish light through chemical reactions within their tissues, creating an ethereal glow on decaying wood and forest floor debris. More than 70 species of bioluminescent fungi have been identified worldwide, with many concentrated in tropical forests where conditions favor their growth. The light is produced by a chemical reaction involving a compound called luciferin, similar to the mechanism used by fireflies. Scientists believe the glow may attract insects that help disperse fungal spores, though the evolutionary purpose remains debated for some species. The light production typically occurs in the underground mycelium or in the fruiting bodies we recognize as mushrooms. Some bioluminescent fungi glow brightly enough to read by, while others produce barely perceptible light visible only after eyes have adjusted to complete darkness. Indigenous peoples have long been aware of these glowing fungi, sometimes using them as natural flashlights on night journeys through the forest. These living nightlights add an element of magic to the jungle darkness. Some jungle rivers turn black from decaying leaves. The Blackwater rivers of tropical South America acquire their characteristic dark coloration from tannins and other organic compounds released during the decomposition of leaves and other plant material. Rivers like the Negro, which joins the Amazon near Manaus, appear almost like strong tea, their waters stained by the breakdown of millions of tons of fallen vegetation. These tannins make the water highly acidic and relatively sterile, supporting fewer fish and invertebrate species than the nutrient-rich whitewater rivers nearby. The meeting point of the tea-colored Negro and the muddy Solimões River creates a famous visual phenomenon where the waters flow side by side for kilometers before gradually mixing. Blackwater forests often develop unique ecological communities adapted to the acidic, nutrient-poor conditions. The dark water absorbs sunlight more effectively than clear water, warming the surface while keeping deeper layers cool. Indigenous communities have long distinguished between river types, using different fishing techniques and recognizing the different resources each provides. The color of jungle rivers tells stories of the ecosystems draining into them. The kapok tree can grow over 200 feet tall. The kapok, or ceiba, tree stands as one of the giants of the tropical forest, with mature specimens reaching heights exceeding 60 meters and developing enormous buttress roots that can spread outward for more than 10 meters. These massive trees emerge above the general canopy level, creating distinctive crowns visible from great distances that serve as landmarks for both animals and humans navigating the forest. The trunk of a mature kapok can measure several meters in diameter, often developing smooth gray bark studded with conical spines in younger specimens. Kapok trees produce large seed pods filled with fluffy fibers that carry seeds on the wind, and this same fiber was historically used to stuff mattresses, life jackets, and insulation. The trees serve as keystone species in their ecosystems, their massive crowns hosting gardens of epiphytic plants and providing nesting sites for harpy eagles, macaws, and countless other species. Many indigenous cultures consider the kapok sacred, viewing it as a connection between earth and sky. At night, the pale kapok flowers attract bats that serve as their primary pollinators. These forest giants can live for centuries. Pink river dolphins live in the flooded forests of the Amazon. Among the most unexpected inhabitants of the Amazon basin are pink river dolphins, also called bodo, that swim through the flooded forests during high water season, navigating between submerged trees with remarkable agility. These dolphins have evolved numerous adaptations for life in murky, obstacle-filled waters, including flexible necks that allow them to turn their heads to navigate tight spaces, broad flippers for maneuverability, and echolocation systems optimized for cluttered environments. Their pink coloration, which intensifies with age and activity, results from blood vessels near the skin surface and may play a role in thermoregulation or social signaling. Unlike ocean dolphins, Amazon River dolphins are largely solitary, lacking the social pods typical of their marine relatives. Local indigenous peoples consider the boto sacred and have developed rich mythology around these mysterious creatures. The dolphins feed on the abundant fish that enter the flooded forest to feed on fruits and seeds falling from trees above. River dolphins represent an ancient lineage that adapted to freshwater environments millions of years ago. Their presence transforms the flooded forest into an aquatic wonderland. Some jungle plants have leaves large enough to shelter humans. The understory of tropical rainforests hosts plants with some of the largest leaves in the plant kingdom, evolved to capture the limited light filtering through the canopy above. The giant lily pads of the Amazon, Victoria amazonica, produce circular leaves exceeding 2 meters in diameter, strong enough to support the weight of a small child when distributed evenly across the ribbed surface. Various species of elephant ear plants, called colocasia and alocasia, develop leaves spanning more than a meter that local inhabitants have used as natural umbrellas during rain showers. The large-leaved plants of the ginger and banana families contribute to the jungle's characteristic lush appearance while capturing light in the dim understory. Giant leaves require substantial structural investment, including reinforced veins and thick stems to support their weight and withstand tropical downpours. Some indigenous peoples use large jungle leaves for roofing temporary shelters, wrapping food for cooking, and serving as plates for meals. These enormous leaves demonstrate how plants adapt to even the most challenging light environments. The giant leaves of the jungle floor transform dim spaces into green cathedrals. Electric eels can generate shocks strong enough to stun a horse. The electric eel of the Amazon basin, despite its name actually being a type of knife fish rather than a true eel, can produce electrical discharges of up to 800 volts and 1 ampere of current, enough to incapacitate large mammals, including horses that enter the water. These remarkable fish use 3 specialized organs comprising nearly 80% of their body to generate and store electrical charge like living batteries. Low-voltage pulses serve for navigation and detecting prey in murky water through a form of biological radar, while high-voltage shocks subdue prey and deter predators. Electric eels must surface regularly to breathe air, having adapted to the oxygen-poor waters of slow-moving Amazon tributaries. Researchers have documented eels leaping from the water to deliver shocks directly to perceived threats, a behavior that intensifies the electrical effect. Multiple eels have been observed coordinating attacks on prey, herding fish into tight groups before shocking them collectively. Indigenous peoples have long respected and feared these creatures, developing techniques to harvest them safely. The electric eel represents one of nature's most powerful bioelectric organisms. Certain beetles glow to attract mates in the darkness. In the darkness of tropical nights, bioluminescent beetles, including fireflies and click beetles, produce flashing lights to find and attract mates through species-specific patterns and colors. Each species has evolved its own unique sequence of flashes, creating a visual language that prevents interbreeding between closely related species sharing the same habitat. The light is produced through a remarkably efficient chemical reaction that generates almost no heat, making beetle bioluminescence one of the coldest light sources known. Males typically fly through the forest producing flash patterns, while females respond from vegetation below, and the pair negotiate a meeting through their light conversation. Some predatory firefly females have evolved to mimic the flash patterns of other species, luring males that become prey rather than mates. The synchronized flashing of firefly colonies, where thousands of individuals blink in unison, creates spectacular displays in some tropical forests. The light organs of beetles have inspired scientists developing more efficient lighting technologies. These glowing beetles transform the jungle night into a living light show of communication and courtship. The jungle canopy is sometimes called the 8th continent. Scientists studying tropical forest canopies have found them so rich in undiscovered species and so distinct from life on the forest floor that some have proposed considering them a separate biome, earning the nickname the Eighth Continent. This elevated realm, suspended 30 to 50 meters above the ground, supports ecological communities as different from the forest floor as any separate continent would be. Many canopy species never descend to the ground, spending their entire lives in the treetops where they feed, breed, and die in a world of branches, vines, and leaves. The canopy only became accessible to sustained scientific study with the development of climbing techniques and canopy walkways in recent decades, revealing communities far more diverse than previously suspected. Each new expedition discovers species unknown to science, from tiny invertebrates to orchids and frogs. The microclimate of the canopy differs markedly from the forest floor, with more intense sunlight, stronger winds, and greater temperature fluctuations. Competition for light and nutrients drives remarkable adaptations in canopy organisms. This elevated forest world remains one of Earth's last great frontiers for biological exploration. Some monkeys use specific calls to warn of different predators. Vervet monkeys and several other primate species have evolved sophisticated alarm call systems that convey specific information about different types of threats, representing one of the clearest examples of referential communication in the animal kingdom. Distinct calls alert troop members to eagles, leopards, and snakes, with each call triggering appropriate escape behavior without group members needing to spot the danger themselves. Upon hearing an eagle alarm, monkeys look up and rush to dense undergrowth, while a leopard call sends them racing up into the thinnest tree branches where the heavy cat cannot follow. Snake alarms prompt careful scanning of the ground and surrounding vegetation. Young monkeys learn the correct use of these calls through experience, initially making mistakes that adults may correct. Playback experiments confirm that the calls alone, without any visible predator, trigger appropriate responses. Different monkey species have evolved their own vocabularies of alarm calls, some more elaborate than others. Scientists debate whether these calls truly represent words or remain something less than language. These warning calls demonstrate the complexity of animal communication systems. Jungle soil is surprisingly nutrient-poor despite the lush growth. Contrary to what the luxuriant vegetation might suggest, most tropical rainforest soils are remarkably thin and nutrient-poor, exhausted by millions of years of intense weathering and leaching by heavy rainfall. The lush appearance of the jungle is maintained not by rich soil, but by rapid nutrient cycling, with nutrients released from decomposing material being immediately captured by living roots before they can be washed away. Ancient tropical soils have lost most of the minerals and nutrients that younger soils in temperate regions still contain. When jungle is cleared for agriculture, the soil typically supports crops for only a few years before becoming completely depleted, requiring farmers to clear new areas in a cycle of shifting cultivation. The red and yellow colors common to tropical soils indicate high levels of iron and aluminum oxides remaining after more soluble nutrients have been leached away. This nutrient poverty helps explain why jungle recovery after disturbance can take decades or centuries. The forest maintains its apparent abundance through biological processes rather than geological wealth. Understanding soil limitations is essential for sustainable use of tropical forest lands. Most nutrients are locked in living plants rather than the soil. In tropical rainforests, the majority of available nutrients exist not in the soil, but in the living biomass of plants and animals, creating a system fundamentally different from temperate forests, where soil stores significant nutrient reserves. Just centimeters below a thick carpet of leaves and roots, the soil contains remarkably little organic matter or available minerals. When leaves fall or organisms die, armies of decomposers, including fungi, Termites, beetles, and bacteria break down the material rapidly in the warm, moist conditions. Plant roots permeate the forest floor so thoroughly that they capture released nutrients almost immediately, preventing them from being washed deeper into the soil by frequent rains. Some trees have evolved associations with fungi that decompose fallen leaves directly, creating nutrient pipelines from dead material to living roots that bypass the soil entirely. Cutting and burning jungle releases nutrients only temporarily before they wash away. This tight nutrient cycling explains why tropical soils cannot support sustained agriculture without careful management. The jungle effectively holds its own resources in living form. Certain flowers smell like rotting flesh to attract pollinators. Among the jungle's more disturbing botanical adaptations are flowers that emit the stench of decomposing meat to attract carrion flies and beetles that normally feed on dead animals. The Titan arum of Southeast Asia produces one of the largest and most pungent blooms in the plant kingdom, heating its enormous flower structure to better disperse the rotting smell across considerable distances. Flies and beetles arrive expecting a meal or place to lay eggs and instead pick up or deposit pollen, unwittingly serving the plant's reproductive needs. The corpse flower bloom is so energy-intensive that plants may wait a decade between flowering events. Similar strategies have evolved independently in other plant families, demonstrating how effective carrion mimicry can be for pollination. The flowers often develop dark reddish colors resembling raw meat and produce textures that mimic animal tissue. Some even generate heat to enhance the illusion of a freshly dead body. While deeply unpleasant to human noses, these flowers represent sophisticated evolutionary solutions to pollination challenges. The smell of death serves life in the jungle cycle. Spider webs in jungles can stretch across rivers. Certain tropical orb-weaver spiders construct webs of truly extraordinary dimensions, with some spanning several meters across rivers, streams, and forest gaps to capture prey other spiders cannot reach. The Darwin's bark spider of Madagascar produces silk stronger than any other known biological material, allowing it to anchor webs across distances of up to 25 meters. These river-spanning webs intercept flying insects that would otherwise escape web-building spiders confined to vegetation. The spiders often position their webs where air currents funnel insects into predictable flight paths over water. Building such massive structures requires producing enormous quantities of silk and precisely calculating anchor points on opposite banks. Some webs can capture surprisingly large prey, including small birds and bats, though insects remain the primary food source. The strength of orb-weaver silk has attracted significant scientific and commercial interest for potential applications in medicine and materials science. These industrious architects reshape the airspace of the jungle to suit their hunting needs. Giant webs stretching across open spaces demonstrate spider engineering at its most ambitious. Some jungle frogs carry their tadpoles on their backs. Several species of poison dart frogs and their relatives have evolved remarkable parental care strategies that include carrying tadpoles on their backs to transport them from breeding sites to suitable aquatic habitats. After eggs hatch in leaf litter or other terrestrial locations, one parent, usually the male in poison dart frogs, crouches to allow the tadpoles to wriggle onto its back. Parent then climbs through the forest, sometimes ascending dozens of meters into the canopy, to deposit each tadpole in a separate water-filled bromeliad or tree hole. This strategy reduces competition between siblings and spreads the risk of predation or habitat failure. Some species make repeated trips over days or weeks to feed their tadpoles with unfertilized eggs, providing protein in the nutrient-poor water pools. The mucus on the parent's skin helps tadpoles adhere during the climb. This level of parental investment is unusual among amphibians and contributes to the survival advantage of offspring despite small clutch sizes. These devoted amphibian parents demonstrate that sophisticated parenting behavior exists throughout the animal kingdom. The Amazon releases flying rivers of water vapor into the atmosphere. The Amazon rainforest transpires such enormous quantities of water through its trees that the resulting moisture flow, called flying rivers, rivals the actual Amazon River in volume. This atmospheric moisture is carried by winds across the continent, providing rainfall to regions thousands of kilometers away that would otherwise be much drier. A single large Amazonian tree can release hundreds of liters of water into the atmosphere daily through pores in its leaves. Collectively, the forest pumps billions of liters skyward every day, creating rainfall that sustains agriculture and cities far from the jungle itself. Computer models suggest that significant deforestation could reduce rainfall across South America, threatening food production in areas that currently receive Amazon-generated precipitation. The forest does not merely respond to climate, but actively creates and regulates regional weather patterns. Scientists describe this moisture transport as a river in the sky, invisible but vital to millions of people who may never see the forest. Understanding flying rivers has transformed our appreciation of the Amazon's importance beyond its borders. Lianas can bind trees together during storms. The woody climbing vines, called lianas, play an unexpected structural role in tropical forests, connecting tree crowns together into a forest-wide network that can either support or doom individual trees during severe weather. When powerful storms strike, lianas linking trees may spread the force of falling individuals across their neighbors, sometimes creating chains of collapse as one falling tree pulls others down with it. Conversely, the interconnected structure may help stabilize some trees that would otherwise blow over alone. Lianas represent a significant portion of jungle biomass, with some forests supporting masses of vines nearly equal to the mass of the trees supporting them. These climbing plants compete intensely with their host trees for light and water, while depending on them for physical support. In the canopy, tangles of lianas create highways for arboreal animals moving between trees without descending to the forest floor. Some lianas grow so thick that they outlive their original host trees, standing independently as hollow spirals when the tree rots away. The complex relationship between trees and their vine partners shapes forest structure and dynamics. Some insects have evolved to look exactly like leaves. Leaf insects of tropical Asia represent perhaps the most remarkable examples of camouflage in the insect world, having evolved bodies that mimic leaves so precisely that even trained observers struggle to spot them in vegetation. These large, flat-bodied insects display not only the green color and shape of leaves, but also the veins, serrated edges, and even the brown spots and damage marks of genuine foliage. They sway gently on branches as if moved by wind, further enhancing the illusion. Female leaf insects are broader and more precisely leaf-like, while males are slenderer with smaller wings better suited for flight when searching for mates. Their camouflage protects them from visual predators, including birds and primates, that would otherwise easily consume these large, slow-moving insects. Even their eggs mimic plant seeds, adding another layer of protection to the next generation. Leaf insects feed on vegetation, typically remaining motionless during daylight and moving only at night when their camouflage provides less advantage. Evolution has crafted these extraordinary creatures into living botanical frauds. Jungle birds display some of the most elaborate mating dances on Earth. The birds of paradise in New Guinea and the manakins of South America perform courtship displays so elaborate and bizarre that early European naturalists sometimes doubted eyewitness accounts of their behavior. Male birds have evolved spectacular plumage combined with acrobatic dances, vocalizations, and stage-setting behaviors designed to attract highly selective females. Superb birds of paradise transform into bouncing black discs with electric blue breast shields, while riflebirds spread cape-like wings to become hypnotic living fans. Mannequins perform moonwalk-like slides, backflips, and cooperative team dances where multiple males perform together, though only one will mate. These performances take place on carefully maintained display grounds called leks that males clear of leaves and debris. Females visit multiple performers before choosing a mate, driving intense competition that has produced increasingly elaborate displays over evolutionary time. The energy males invest in plumage and performance comes at the cost of other survival abilities, making these displays honest signals of genetic quality. These avian performers represent nature at its most theatrical. Certain trees have buttress roots taller than a person. The enormous flattened buttress roots, extending from the bases of many tropical giants, serve both structural and nutrient-gathering functions, sometimes spreading several meters high along the trunk and more than 10 meters outward from the tree's base. These dramatic structures help anchor massive trees in thin tropical soils where taproot systems cannot penetrate deeply due to bedrock, waterlogged conditions, or nutrient-poor subsoil. The thin, wing-like buttresses provide surprising stability by spreading the tree's weight across a wide area and resisting the twisting forces of wind loading on the tall canopy above. The spaces between buttress roots create sheltered microhabitats where distinctive plant and animal communities develop, protected from the main forest floor environment. Some indigenous cultures have traditionally used the resonant properties of buttress roots as forest communication drums, with strikes audible across considerable distances. The plank-like buttresses of some species have even been used as traditional building materials. Scientists continue to study how these structures develop and function. Walking among giant buttress roots provides some of the most dramatic experiences available in tropical forests. The Congo jungle is the second largest tropical forest on Earth. Spanning across 6 countries in Central Africa, the Congo Basin rainforest covers approximately 2 million square kilometers, making it the second largest tropical forest after the Amazon and containing roughly 1/4 of the world's remaining tropical rainforest. This vast wilderness harbors extraordinary biodiversity, including forest elephants, lowland gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos, and okapi, found nowhere else on Earth. The Congo River system drains the basin, carrying more water than any river except the Amazon and serving as a vital transportation corridor through otherwise impenetrable forest. The forest floor hosts a remarkable community of forest peoples who have lived in intimate relationship with the jungle for thousands of years. Despite its ecological importance, the Congo forests have received far less scientific attention than their South American counterparts, with significant portions remaining essentially unexplored. Logging, mining, and agricultural expansion threaten increasing areas each year. The forests play crucial roles in global climate regulation, storing vast amounts of carbon that would otherwise warm the atmosphere. Conservation efforts in the politically complex region face significant challenges. Some jungle plants produce chemicals used in modern medicine. Tropical rainforests have provided humanity with numerous compounds that form the basis of modern medicines, from the quinine that treats malaria to the vincristine that fights childhood leukemia. Scientists estimate that less than 1% of tropical plant species have been thoroughly tested for medicinal properties, suggesting vast pharmaceutical potential remains undiscovered. Many indigenous peoples possess extensive traditional knowledge about the healing properties of forest plants, knowledge that has guided researchers toward promising compounds. The rosy periwinkle of Madagascar provides chemicals used in treating several types of cancer, saving thousands of lives annually. Curare, the paralytic poison used on hunting arrows, has been refined into muscle relaxants used in surgical anesthesia. The bark of several jungle tree species contains compounds now used in heart medications and blood pressure treatments. Tragically, forest destruction may be eliminating species containing valuable compounds before they can be studied. The jungle represents a living pharmacy of unpredictable value. Protecting tropical forests means preserving medical possibilities we cannot yet imagine. Army ants form living bridges with their own bodies. Raiding columns of army ants encounter gaps and obstacles they cannot simply walk around, prompting workers to link their bodies together into living structures that allow the colony to continue its march unimpeded. These temporary bridges assemble in minutes as ants grasp each other with their legs and mandibles, forming flexible chains that span gaps between leaves, branches, and other surfaces. The bridges persist as long as needed, with individual ants willingly sacrificing their own foraging time to serve as infrastructure for their sisters. Studies have shown that colonies adjust bridge size based on traffic flow, adding ants to busy bridges and disbanding underused structures. The same body-linking behavior creates living walls that contain captured prey and temporary bivouacs where the colony rests between raids. Army ants possess no permanent nest, instead forming a living nest called a bivouac from their interlinked bodies each time they stop. The willingness of individual ants to function as building material demonstrates the remarkable self-organization capabilities of social insects. These living bridges represent collective problem-solving without central planning. Certain jungle vines can hold enough weight for humans to swing on. The lianas and thick-hanging vines made famous in adventure stories do indeed exist in tropical jungles, with mature specimens sometimes reaching diameters comparable to human arms and capable of supporting considerable weight when properly attached to sound branches. However, many vines cannot support human weight, and choosing wrong could result in falls from dangerous heights. Experienced forest inhabitants learn to identify which species produce reliable vines and how to test their attachment points before trusting them. Some vines grow so thick and rope-like that they have been used traditionally for building suspension bridges capable of supporting many people at once. The vines typically run from forest floor to canopy, following whatever supporting structures they can climb. Unlike trees, lianas invest in length rather than self-supporting structure, achieving greater heights with less woody material. Studies have documented monkeys swinging on vines to travel or play, demonstrating that the behavior is not purely a human invention. While vine swinging occurs differently than depicted in fiction, the fundamental principle works where conditions allow. The flooded forests of the Amazon are called Igapo and Várzea. The Amazon basin experiences such dramatic seasonal flooding that entire forest ecosystems have adapted to spending months each year partially submerged, resulting in two distinctive forest types classified by the water that floods them. Várzea forests are flooded by nutrient-rich whitewater from Andean tributaries, supporting high productivity and dense fish populations that feast on falling fruits and seeds. Igapo forests are flooded by nutrient-poor blackwater rivers draining ancient lowland soils, creating acidic conditions that support different ecological communities. Trees in both forest types have evolved various adaptations, including aerial roots that remain above water level and the ability to enter dormancy during flooding. Fish swimming among the trunks form unique ecological relationships with the trees, dispersing seeds across the flooded landscape and feeding on underwater fallen fruits. Indigenous peoples have developed specialized fishing and hunting techniques for these seasonally transformed landscapes. The water level may fluctuate more than 10 meters annually, completely reshaping the environment between seasons. These flooded forests represent some of the least understood ecosystems on Earth. Some jungle trees have bark that peels in rainbow colors. The rainbow eucalyptus, native to the Philippines and Indonesia, produces one of the most visually striking natural phenomena in any forest by shedding its bark in patches that reveal different colors as the newly exposed surface ages. The freshly exposed inner bark appears bright green, then gradually darkens through shades of blue, purple, orange, and finally brown as it ages, creating a multicolored patchwork on living trunks. Different sections of the tree shed bark at different times, ensuring a constantly changing display throughout the year. The distinctive appearance results from chlorophyll in the inner bark and various pigments revealed as the bark weathers. These trees can reach heights exceeding 60 meters in their native habitat and have been planted in tropical regions worldwide for both ornamental and timber purposes. Similar but less dramatic color changes occur in some other eucalyptus species and certain unrelated tropical trees. The rainbow eucalyptus demonstrates that bark is not merely dead protective tissue, but an actively growing layer. Artists and photographers travel considerable distances to document these naturally painted trees. Tarantulas in jungles can have leg spans wider than dinner plates. The Goliath bird-eater tarantula of South American rainforests holds the title of the world's largest spider by mass and leg span, with specimens reaching leg spans exceeding 30 centimeters and weighing more than some birds. Despite their intimidating size, these spiders rarely prey on birds, instead feeding primarily on invertebrates, frogs, and small rodents that they ambush from burrow entrances. Their large fangs can inflict painful bites, but the venom is relatively mild to humans, comparable to a wasp sting. When threatened, Goliath bird-eaters produce a hissing sound by rubbing their legs together and can release irritating hairs from their abdomens that cause skin and respiratory discomfort. These giant spiders continue growing throughout their lives, which can span more than 2 decades in females. Males mature faster but live shorter lives, often being eaten by females after mating. The Goliath bird-eater represents just one of many large tarantula species inhabiting tropical forests worldwide. Despite their fearsome appearance, these spiders play important ecological roles, controlling invertebrate and small vertebrate populations. Certain plants have evolved to trap and digest insects. Carnivorous plants have emerged independently in several plant families within tropical forests, evolving the ability to trap and digest insects to supplement the scarce nutrients available in acidic soils and nutrient-poor environments. Pitcher plants produce modified leaves that form deep chambers filled with digestive fluid, luring insects with nectar and color before trapping them on slippery walls that send prey tumbling into the deadly pool below. Sundews capture prey with sticky tentacles that curl around struggling insects, while digestive enzymes break down the bodies. Tropical bladderworts lurking in water-filled tree holes create vacuum-powered traps that suck in tiny aquatic organisms. The nutrients extracted from prey bodies, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus, supplement photosynthesis and allow these plants to thrive where others cannot. Some larger pitcher plant species have evolved to capture not just insects, but occasionally small vertebrates, including lizards, frogs, and even mice. The complex trapping mechanisms of these plants demonstrate how diverse solutions can evolve when traditional nutrient acquisition fails. Carnivorous plants blur the boundaries between the plant and animal kingdoms. The jungle night is busier than the day for many creatures. As darkness falls over the jungle, a transformation occurs as nocturnal species emerge, and the forest becomes even more active than during daylight hours when heat and predation pressure keep many creatures hidden. Moths replacing butterflies visit night-blooming flowers, releasing powerful fragrances into the humid air. Predators including owls, leopards, and snakes take advantage of darkness to hunt prey that cannot see them approaching. The sounds of the night jungle differ dramatically from daytime, with frogs, insects, and nocturnal birds creating a complex acoustic tapestry that can be overwhelming in its intensity. Many primates and birds that dominate the daytime scenes sleep through the night, replaced by civets, binturongs, and mouse lemurs that fill similar ecological roles after dark. Night vision cameras have revealed behaviors and species interactions invisible to direct human observation. The cooler temperatures of night also allow high-activity hunting that would cause overheating during the day. This temporal division of the jungle allows more species to coexist by reducing direct competition between day-active and night-active counterparts. Some frogs are so small they can sit on a fingernail. Among the microhylid frogs and related families of tropical forests are some of the smallest vertebrates on Earth, with fully grown adults measuring less than 1 centimeter in length and weighing fractions of a gram. These tiny amphibians face unique physiological challenges related to their miniature scale, including difficulties maintaining water balance and the physical constraints of building tiny but functional organ systems. Their minute size allows them to occupy ecological niches unavailable to larger frogs, feeding on the tiniest invertebrates, including mites and springtails that larger predators ignore. Discovery of new miniature frog species continues regularly as researchers examine leaf litter more carefully, with several record-breaking tiny species described only in recent years. Despite their diminutive size, males of many species produce surprisingly loud calls to attract mates during the breeding season. Miniaturization has evolved independently in multiple frog lineages, suggesting strong selective advantages to small body size in certain tropical environments. These living jewels of the jungle floor demonstrate that evolution can push vertebrate body size to remarkable extremes. Jungle rivers can rise dozens of feet during the wet season. The seasonal flooding of tropical rivers reaches truly extraordinary magnitudes in some jungle basins, with water levels fluctuating up to 15 meters or more between wet and dry seasons in regions like the Amazon, Congo, and Mekong. This annual pulse of water transforms landscapes, expanding river channels into vast lakes that inundate millions of square kilometers of forest as floodwaters spread through the trees. Fish populations disperse into the flooded forest to feed on fruits, seeds, and invertebrates unavailable during low water, while terrestrial animals retreat to higher ground or adapt to aquatic conditions. Human communities along these rivers have developed their entire lives around the flood cycle, building houses on stilts and shifting activities between seasons. The timing of monsoons, snowmelt from distant mountains, and local rainfall patterns all contribute to flooding in different regions. Floodwaters deposit nutrients across the landscape, maintaining fertility in otherwise poor soils. Climate change and dam construction are altering these ancient flood patterns with uncertain consequences. Living with dramatic flood cycles requires constant adaptation. Some trees produce fruits only eaten by fish. In the flooded forests of the Amazon basin, numerous tree species have evolved to produce fruits adapted primarily for dispersal by fish rather than birds or mammals. These fruits typically ripen during the flood season when fish can swim among the tree trunks to feed on them. The fruits often have tough outer shells that can withstand digestion, allowing seeds to pass through fish guts intact, and be deposited in nutrient-rich droppings far from the parent tree. Some of these fruits have evolved colors, scents, and flavors that specifically attract fish, while remaining uninteresting to other potential seed dispersers. Researchers have documented more than 200 tree species in the Amazon that rely partially or entirely on fish for seed dispersal. The fish, in turn, depend on these fruit pulses for significant portions of their annual nutrition. Removing either partner from this relationship would cascade through the ecosystem with unpredictable consequences. This intimate connection between trees and fish exemplifies the unexpected ecological relationships found in tropical forests. The toucan's beak helps regulate its body temperature. The enormous, colorful beak of tropical toucans serves functions beyond its obvious use in feeding, including a crucial role in thermoregulation that scientists only fully appreciated in recent decades. Infrared imaging has revealed that toucans can direct blood flow to their beaks, transforming these structures into efficient radiators that shed excess body heat into the surrounding air. The beak can release up to 4 times the resting heat production of the bird's body, allowing rapid temperature adjustment in changing conditions. At night, when cooling would cause dangerous heat loss, blood flow to the beak decreases, reducing thermal emission. The effectiveness of the beak as a cooling organ relates to its large surface area relative to volume and its rich blood supply. This thermoregulatory function may help explain why toucans evolved such disproportionately large beaks in the hot, humid tropical environment. Similar heat dissipation functions have been proposed for other large structures in warm climate animals, including elephant ears. The toucan's iconic beak thus serves as both tool and climate control system. Certain jungle moths can mimic the calls of bats. In a remarkable example of acoustic mimicry, some tiger moths of tropical forests have evolved the ability to produce ultrasonic clicks that jam bat echolocation systems or mimic the warning sounds of toxic moth species. Bats rely on echolocation to hunt, sending out ultrasonic pulses and interpreting the returning echoes to locate flying insects. Certain moths produce rapid series of clicks that confuse this system, causing bats to break off attacks as if their targeting system had malfunctioned. Other moth species produce sounds that mimic the clicks made by unpalatable or toxic moths, causing bats to avoid them even if the mimicking moth would actually make a tasty meal. This acoustic warning system parallels the visual warning colors used by day-flying insects to advertise toxicity to birds. The evolutionary arms race between bats and moths has produced some of the most sophisticated acoustic countermeasures in the animal kingdom. Research continues to reveal new details of this invisible nighttime communication. Sound has become a battlefield in the jungle darkness. Howler monkeys are among the loudest land animals on Earth. The dawn chorus of howler monkeys reverberating through Central and South American forests can be heard from distances exceeding 5 kilometers, making these primates among the loudest land animals on the planet. This remarkable vocal ability stems from an enlarged hyoid bone in the throat that amplifies and resonates sounds produced by the voice box. Howler monkey groups use their morning and evening calling bouts to announce their location to neighboring troops, helping to maintain territorial boundaries without the energy and risk of physical confrontation. The deep, rumbling roars can be almost physically felt at close range, vibrating in the observer's chest. Different species of howler monkey produce distinctive vocalizations that allow individual and group identification. Males typically produce louder, deeper calls than females, and dominant males often lead group calling sessions. The impressive volume allows troops to space themselves appropriately across the forest, without visual contact through dense vegetation. These vocalizations are among the most distinctive sounds of the neotropical jungle. Some jungle flowers only open at night. As darkness falls over the jungle, a completely different set of flowers awakens to attract nocturnal pollinators rather than the daytime bees and butterflies that visit blooms under the sun. Night-blooming flowers typically present pale colors visible in low light, large petals that maximize visibility, and powerful fragrances that can travel considerable distances through still night air. The queen of the night cactus and night-blooming jasmine release intoxicating scents specifically to attract moths and bats. Many of these flowers close by morning, never seen by casual daytime visitors to their habitats. The evolution of nocturnal blooming allows plants to access pollinator services without competing with day-blooming species for attention. Some night flowers produce nectar so rich it would ferment and spoil in daytime heat. The synchronized opening of flowers across a population ensures that pollinators moving between plants carry fresh pollen. Visiting a tropical forest by night reveals an entirely different botanical landscape than daylight suggests. The secret garden of the jungle night demonstrates nature's remarkable temporal partitioning. Piranhas are less dangerous than their reputation suggests. Despite their fearsome portrayal in popular media, piranhas rarely attack healthy humans and are far less dangerous than commonly believed. These South American fish typically scavenge on dead and dying animals, serve as cleanup crews removing sick individuals from fish populations, and primarily eat other fish, insects, and plant material. The feeding frenzies depicted in films occur only under unusual conditions, when fish are trapped in shrinking pools during dry season or when blood has been introduced to the water. Indigenous peoples regularly swim in piranha-infested waters without incident, treating these fish with respect but not terror. Several piranha species are valued as food fish and caught commercially throughout their range. The name piranha comes from indigenous Tupi words meaning tooth fish, referring to their sharp triangular teeth used for slicing rather than the tearing action often depicted. Piranha biology includes fascinating behaviors, including nest guarding by males and complex social structures. These fish deserve respect as efficient predators with important ecological roles rather than the mindless killers of popular imagination. The anaconda is one of the heaviest snakes in the world. The green anaconda of South American jungles, while not the longest snake species on record, holds the title of the world's heaviest snake, with large females exceeding 200 kilograms and approaching 9 meters in length. These massive constrictors spend much of their lives in water, where buoyancy helps support their considerable bulk and allows ambush predation on animals coming to drink. Anacondas prey on a remarkable variety of animals, including fish, birds, capybaras, caimans, and occasionally jaguars, subduing prey through constriction rather than venom. Females give birth to live young after a gestation period of several months, producing litters of 20 to 40 baby snakes that are immediately independent. Males are considerably smaller than females and compete physically for mating opportunities, sometimes forming breeding balls of multiple males around a single female. Despite their size, anacondas remain difficult to study in the wild due to their aquatic habits and murky habitat. Indigenous peoples have long respected these powerful reptiles while occasionally hunting them for food and leather. The anaconda embodies the scale and power of the jungle ecosystem. Certain jungle lizards can run across water. The basilisk lizards of Central America have earned the nickname Jesus Christ lizard for their remarkable ability to sprint across the surface of water, a feat achieved through a combination of speed, specialized toe structure, and precise biomechanics. When threatened by predators, basilisks drop from overhanging branches and run across streams or ponds on their hind legs, slapping the water surface with fringed toes that create air pockets, providing momentary support. They can cover distances of several meters across water before losing speed and sinking, at which point they become proficient swimmers. The behavior works best in younger, lighter individuals, while adults can only manage shorter surface runs before momentum fails. Scientists have studied basilisk locomotion extensively, finding that the lizard's technique involves 3 phases: slapping, stroking, and withdrawal, each optimized to maximize time above water. The ability provides effective escape from terrestrial predators unable to follow. Other animals, including some insects and spiders, can also exploit surface tension for water walking. Basilisks demonstrate that water walking is physically possible given the right adaptations and technique. Some trees drop their leaves during the dry season to conserve water. Not all tropical forests remain green year-round, with significant areas of tropical deciduous forest experiencing seasonal leaf drop during dry periods as trees conserve water by reducing their evaporative surface area. These forests, sometimes called monsoon forests or tropical dry forests, support different ecological communities than their evergreen counterparts and undergo dramatic seasonal appearance changes. The bare branches during dry season allow sunlight to reach the forest floor, triggering flowering in understory plants timed to the increased light availability. Leaf drop concentrates nutrient release into specific periods, creating seasonal pulses of activity throughout the food web. Animals relying on fruit and leaves must adapt to these seasonal fluctuations or migrate to areas with different timing. When rains return, trees rapidly produce new leaves, and the forest burgeons back to full greenness within weeks. Deciduous tropical forests face significant conservation challenges as their seasonal nature makes them more accessible to logging and agricultural conversion during dry season. These seasonally green forests represent a significant but often overlooked tropical ecosystem. The cacao tree that produces chocolate grows wild in jungles. Cacao tree, source of chocolate that has become one of the world's favorite flavors, originated in the understory of South American rainforests, where wild populations still grow today. These small trees produce large pods directly from their trunks and major branches, containing the seeds that are fermented, dried, and processed into cocoa and chocolate products. Wild cacao trees depend on midges for pollination and monkeys for seed dispersal, though cultivation has modified these relationships. Ancient Mesoamerican civilizations domesticated cacao thousands of years ago, using the beans as currency and producing bitter ceremonial beverages quite different from modern sweet chocolate. The genetic diversity preserved in wild jungle populations remains crucial for breeding disease resistance and flavor improvement in cultivated varieties. Shade-grown cacao plantations mimic natural forest conditions and can support significant biodiversity while producing commercial crops. The chocolate industry's future depends partly on maintaining the wild relatives of cultivated cacao in their jungle habitat. Every chocolate bar traces its origins to the humid understory of tropical American forests. Some jungle plants have evolved to store water in their stems. In environments where rainfall may be seasonal or where roots cannot access reliable groundwater, various tropical plants have evolved succulent stems capable of storing water reserves that sustain them through dry periods. While succulence is typically associated with deserts, numerous jungle plants, including some trees, vines, and epiphytes, display water-storing tissues. Bottle-shaped trunks of certain tropical trees can store thousands of liters of water that the tree draws upon during drought. Epiphytic cacti living in the canopy have no access to soil moisture and depend on stored water between rain events. The swollen stems of these plants often look distinctive, providing reliable field identification characters. Some water-storing plants also store nutrients, carbohydrates, or defensive compounds in the same tissues. Succulent stems typically contain specialized cells that can expand and contract as water levels change. The convergent evolution of succulents across unrelated plant families demonstrates how similar environmental challenges produce similar structural solutions. Water storage represents one of many adaptations allowing plants to thrive where resources fluctuate unpredictably. Toucans sleep with their tails folded over their heads. Despite appearing ungainly with their oversized beaks, toucans have evolved an elegant sleeping posture that transforms their large bills from apparent liabilities into compact packages tucked snugly against their bodies. When roosting, toucans turn their heads backward and fold their long tails up and over their backs, creating a feathered ball that minimizes heat loss during cool tropical nights. Multiple family members often crowd into tree cavities together, sharing body warmth in spaces that seem impossibly small for so many large birds. The choice of confined sleeping quarters may also provide protection from nocturnal predators by limiting access points. Young toucans learn folding behaviors from adults, and the compact sleeping posture appears innate to the toucan family. The transformation from active, colorful daytime bird to compact sleeping sphere demonstrates remarkable flexibility in body form. Researchers observing toucan roost sites have documented complex social dynamics around sleeping space access. Even their sleep reveals the elegant adaptations concealed beneath these birds' comical appearance. Certain catfish in the Amazon can make sounds like a cat. Assorted species of Amazonian catfish produce grunting, growling, and drumming sounds using specialized bony structures that vibrate against their swim bladders, creating surprisingly loud vocalizations audible above water. The similarity of these sounds to cat meowing gives some species their name, though the actual noises can range from grinding to thumping depending on species and context. Fish produce these sounds using various mechanisms, including rubbing together hardened spines and vibrating muscles attached to the swim bladder. Communication purposes include territorial defense, courtship, and alarm signaling when predators approach. Some catfish calls are loud enough to be heard across a room when fish are removed from water, startling people unfamiliar with fish vocalizations. The acoustic environment of murky Amazonian waters, where visibility is limited, makes sound communication particularly valuable. Scientists studying fish vocalizations have documented remarkable complexity in the calls of various species. The idea of silently swimming fish falls apart when encountering these vocal catfish. The jungle floor is constantly recycling fallen leaves. Every year, tropical forests drop enormous quantities of leaves, branches, and other organic material onto the forest floor, where an army of decomposers works continuously to break down this debris and return nutrients to the living ecosystem. Tropical decomposition proceeds far faster than in temperate forests due to constant warmth, high moisture, and legions of specialized organisms. Fungi send networks of filaments through leaf litter, producing enzymes that digest tough plant tissues. Termites, millipedes, beetles, and countless other invertebrates shred and consume fallen material, while bacteria complete the breakdown process. The speed of decomposition explains why jungle floors lack the thick leaf litter layers common in temperate forests despite greater leaf production. Nutrients released by decomposition are immediately captured by the dense mat of roots pervading the topsoil layers. Without this rapid recycling, nutrients would accumulate in dead material, unavailable to living plants. The decomposer community literally eats the forest floor as fast as it falls, keeping nutrients flowing through living systems. Some jungle spiders build decoys of themselves in their webs. Certain orb-weaving spiders in tropical forests construct elaborate decoys from prey remains, leaf fragments, and silk debris that mimic the appearance of a larger spider sitting in the web, apparently fooling both predators and prey. These remarkable sculptures often include apparent legs, body segments, and silk lines that enhance the illusion of a real spider. The actual spider typically hides nearby, sometimes in contact with the decoy to feel vibrations when prey or predators interact with it. Scientists believe the decoys may serve to confuse predatory wasps and birds by presenting false targets while the real spider escapes detection. Some decoys are larger than the spider that made them, potentially intimidating other spiders or small predators. The decoy building behavior has been documented primarily in Cyclosa spiders across several tropical regions. Building and maintaining decoys requires significant investment of time and silk, suggesting strong selective advantages. These architectural spiders demonstrate cognitive abilities surprising in animals with such small brains. Macaws gather at clay licks to neutralize toxins from seeds. Among the most spectacular wildlife gatherings in the Amazon are the clay licks, where hundreds of macaws, parrots, and parakeets congregate to consume mineral-rich clay from exposed riverbank cliffs. Scientists believe these birds eat clay primarily to detoxify the plant compounds present in the unripe seeds and fruits that form much of their diet. The clay binds to alkaloids and other toxic compounds in the gut before they can be absorbed into the bloodstream. Sodium and other minerals in the clay may also supplement nutrients scarce in fruit-based diets. Different species access the clay at different times of day, with smaller parakeets often arriving first, followed by increasingly larger species. The gatherings present extraordinary opportunities for predators, particularly hawks, that patrol the lick areas looking for distracted prey. Competition for access to preferred clay spots creates complex social dynamics visible in the noisy assemblies. These parrot gatherings demonstrate how animals have learned to use geological resources to enhance their survival. Certain jungle trees can live for more than 1,000 years. The great trees of tropical forests include individuals that have stood for a millennium or more, surviving countless storms, droughts, and changes in the forest around them. Dating ancient tropical trees proves challenging because many lack the clear annual growth rings found in temperate species, but various techniques have confirmed ages exceeding 1,000 years for certain individuals. These living monuments have witnessed the rise and fall of human civilizations while continuing their slow growth toward the canopy. Ancient trees provide unique ecological services, having developed extensive root systems, hollow cavities for nesting wildlife, and hosting distinctive communities of epiphytic plants. The loss of such trees represents not just removal of large individuals, but erasure of irreplaceable ecological structures built over centuries. Some researchers argue that protecting individual ancient trees should be a conservation priority given their disproportionate ecological contributions. The oldest trees typically occupy special positions in the forest, often resisting challenges that topple younger neighbors. Standing beneath a 1,000-year-old tree invites reflection on time and persistence. Some plants produce fruits that only germinate after passing through an animal. Numerous tropical plants have evolved seeds with such tough outer coats that germination cannot occur unless the seeds pass through the digestive systems of specific animals. The stomach acids and mechanical grinding action within animal guts scarify the seed coat, allowing water and oxygen to reach the embryo and trigger germination. Removing these animals from the ecosystem can doom the plants that depend on them for reproduction, even if the plants themselves remain abundant. Large fruited trees that once relied on now extinct megafauna may be living on borrowed time, their populations slowly declining without seed dispersal partners. The Brazil nut depends on agouti rodents not just for dispersal, but for actually opening the incredibly hard seed pods that no other animal can crack. Some seeds require passage through multiple animal species in sequence, first softened by one digestive system, then scarified by another. These obligate relationships demonstrate how deeply interdependent jungle species have become. The fate of plants and animals are bound together in these invisible partnerships. The jungle canopy is home to creatures that never touch the ground. Many jungle species complete their entire life cycles in the forest canopy, being born, feeding, reproducing, and dying dozens of meters above the forest floor without ever descending to earth. Sloths, numerous monkeys, and many bird species spend virtually their entire lives in the trees. Some canopy-dwelling frogs even reproduce in treetop pools without any aquatic stage at ground level. The canopy offers food, shelter, and safety that make the risky journey to the forest floor unnecessary for these aerial specialists. Epiphytic plants including orchids, bromeliads, and ferns spend generations perched on branches, accumulating soil from decomposing leaves and capturing water from rainfall and mist. The challenges of studying such canopy-bound species have meant that many remain poorly understood despite being common in their elevated habitats. Canopy walkways, climbing techniques, and construction cranes have gradually revealed this hidden world to science. These permanent canopy residents represent a parallel ecosystem above the traditionally studied forest floor. Certain ants create living nests from leaves sewn together. Weaver ants of tropical Africa, Asia, and Australia construct elaborate nests by pulling together living leaves on tree branches and binding them with silk produced by their larvae. Worker ants grip leaf edges with their mandibles, sometimes forming chains of linked ants to bridge larger gaps, while other workers carry larvae back and forth along the seams like living sewing machines. The larvae produce silk specifically for nest construction rather than forming cocoons, having evolved this specialized role within the colony economy. The resulting leaf nest can contain multiple chambers and house hundreds of thousands of ants across networked structures spanning multiple trees. Weaver ant colonies aggressively defend their territories, and in some regions, farmers encourage their presence in orchards where they control pest insects. The green coloration of the leaf nests provides camouflage against visual predators. Creating these architectural marvels requires coordinated labor across generations of workers who will never live in the completed structure. Weaver ants demonstrate collective construction abilities that rival human engineering. Some jungle birds use tools to access food. Tool use, once considered uniquely human, has been documented in numerous jungle bird species, including New Caledonian crows, woodpecker finches, and several parrot species. New Caledonian crows fashion elaborate hooks and probes from leaves and twigs to extract insects from tree bark crevices, demonstrating craftwork that requires planning and skill. Different crow populations develop distinctive tool styles passed down through social learning, suggesting cultural transmission. The woodpecker finches of the Galapagos hold cactus spines in their beaks to probe for wood-boring larvae, compensating for lacking the specialized tongues of true woodpeckers. Palm cockatoos craft drumsticks from branches and use them to beat rhythmic patterns on hollow trees, apparently for communication or display. Tool use requires understanding cause and effect relationships, selecting appropriate materials, and sometimes modifying found objects, all cognitive abilities once attributed only to primates. The convergent evolution of tool use across unrelated bird lineages suggests strong selective advantages where food is difficult to access. These clever birds challenge assumptions about avian intelligence. The morpho butterfly's wings create color through structure, not pigment. The brilliant blue of morpho butterflies comes not from pigments, but from microscopic structures on their wing scales that interfere with light waves, producing iridescent colors that shift depending on viewing angle. These nanoscale ridges selectively reflect blue wavelengths while absorbing others, creating colors more vivid than any pigment could produce. The structural coloration also makes the wings appear to flash from brilliant blue to dull brown as the butterfly flies, potentially confusing predators trying to track it. Scientists and engineers study morpho wing structures, seeking to develop similar technology for displays, paints, and anti-counterfeiting applications. The butterflies themselves cannot see the blue colors their wings produce, as their eyes perceive different wavelength ranges. The undersides of morpho wings display dull brown coloration that provides camouflage when the butterfly rests with wings folded. Structural color persists without fading because no chemical pigments can be bleached by sunlight. These living optics demonstrate how evolution can produce sophisticated technology through natural selection. Some jungle snakes can sense heat from warm-blooded prey. Pit vipers, pythons, and boas have evolved the ability to detect infrared radiation emitted by warm-blooded prey, essentially seeing heat signatures in complete darkness where eyes are useless. Pit vipers possess specialized organs appearing as small holes between their eyes and nostrils, containing membranes sensitive to temperature changes as small as 0.003 of a degree. Boas and pythons have similar heat-sensing pits arranged along their lip scales, giving them thermal imaging capability that rivals military technology. The sensory information from these pits forms images in the brain, merged with visual input to create a combined heat and light picture of the snake's surroundings. This ability allows nocturnal hunting of sleeping birds and mammals that would be invisible to other predators. Scientists studying these remarkable sensory systems have developed improved thermal cameras and medical imaging technologies. Small mammals and birds may appear as glowing targets against the cool background of the jungle night. Heat sensing represents one of nature's most sophisticated predatory technologies. Certain trees flower only after forest fires. While most people associate fire with forest destruction, certain tropical and semi-tropical tree species have evolved to flower and reproduce specifically following fire events that clear competing vegetation and signal optimal conditions for seedling establishment. Fire-triggered flowering occurs in various Australian eucalypts, African proteas, and some savanna woodland species where periodic burning is natural. Seeds that require fire for germination may remain dormant in soil for years or decades until smoke or heat triggers germination. The intense nutrient release following a burn provides optimal conditions for rapid seedling growth. Fire also clears leaf litter, eliminates pathogens, and reduces competition from other plants. Some species retain seeds in fire-resistant structures that only open when heated, releasing seeds immediately after flames pass when conditions are most favorable. Human fire suppression in fire-dependent ecosystems can paradoxically harm species that need burning to complete their life cycles. Fire is not just destruction, but a natural force shaping many tropical forest types. The jungle provides habitat for over half of Earth's species. Tropical rainforests cover less than 2% of Earth's surface, yet harbor more than half of all known species, making them by far the most biologically rich ecosystems on the planet. This extraordinary biodiversity concentration appears to result from stable climatic conditions, allowing specialization over millions of years, high productivity from year-round growing conditions, and complex three-dimensional structure providing varied habitats. A single hectare of tropical forest may contain more tree species than exist in all of temperate Europe. Insect diversity in rainforests is so extreme that estimates of total species numbers remain highly uncertain. The full roster of rainforest species will never be completed before habitat destruction eliminates unknown thousands or millions of forms. Each forest clearing potentially erases species that were never described by science. This concentration of biodiversity makes tropical forests disproportionately important for conservation priorities. The loss of tropical forests would represent the greatest mass extinction event since the dinosaurs disappeared. The jungle is quite literally the planet's treasure house of life. Some jungle streams are so clear they appear invisible. Certain tributaries flowing through tropical forests run so transparent that objects appear to float unsupported above seemingly empty space where the stream actually flows. This extreme clarity results from filtering through dense vegetation that removes sediments, low nutrient levels that prevent algal growth, and chemical conditions that keep particles in solution rather than suspension. Fish swimming in such streams appear to hover in air, their shadows falling on the streambed below while light passes around them as if through nothing. Underwater photographers prize these crystal-clear waters for images that would be impossible in murkier conditions. The clarity also makes the streams challenging habitat for prey species with nowhere to hide from visual predators. Some clear streams flow from cave systems where natural filtration has removed essentially all particulate matter. The contrast between these invisible waters and the murky, sediment-laden main rivers they eventually join can be startling. These liquid windows into the aquatic world demonstrate how varied jungle water bodies can be. Certain orchids trick insects into pollinating them with no reward. Numerous orchid species have evolved deceptive pollination strategies that lure insects with false promises of food or mates while providing nothing in return. Sexually deceptive orchids produce flowers mimicking female insects so convincingly that males attempt to mate with them, picking up or depositing pollen in the process while gaining nothing from the encounter. Food-deceptive orchids mimic flowers of rewarding species without producing any actual nectar, exploiting the learned feeding behavior of pollinators. Some orchids even mimic the brood sites of insects, complete with foul odors, attracting flies that would normally lay eggs in decaying matter. These deceptive relationships work because pollinators cannot easily learn to avoid orchids that reward them occasionally with genuine food, or occur rarely enough that avoidance is not learned efficiently. The evolutionary pressure of competition for pollinators has produced remarkable mimicry across the orchid family. Deceptive orchids demonstrate that exploitation and trickery arise naturally through evolution. The beauty admired in orchids often conceals botanical fraud. The glass frog has transparent skin, revealing its organs. Central and South American glass frogs possess abdominal skin so transparent that their internal organs, including the beating heart, digestive system, and developing eggs, are visible from below. This remarkable transparency is achieved through modified cells that lack the pigments present in most frog skin and may provide camouflage by allowing background colors and patterns to show through the frog's body. When resting on green leaves, the frogs appear to disappear except for their eyes and areas where pigmented tissues remain visible. The transparency varies among species, with some showing only partially transparent undersides, while others display internal structures in remarkable detail. Glass frogs typically live in trees overhanging streams, where males guard egg masses attached to leaves until tadpoles hatch and drop into the water below. Scientists study these frogs to understand how transparency evolves and how organisms can function normally despite lacking pigmentation in tissues where it is usually essential. These living windows into vertebrate anatomy fascinate everyone who encounters them. Some jungle plants can move toward light sources overnight. Plants are often perceived as static organisms, but many actively track the sun during the day and reposition their leaves overnight to face the direction where light will appear at dawn, through movements called phototropism and nyctinasty. Sunflowers famously track the sun, but many jungle plants display similar, though less conspicuous movements that maximize light capture throughout the day. The movements are powered by changes in water pressure within specialized cells called pulvini located at the bases of leaves and leaflets. Time-lapse photography reveals that jungle plants shift constantly, adjusting positions in response to changing light conditions with surprising speed. Some plants fold their leaves at night, reducing water loss and protection from nocturnal herbivores before unfurling again at dawn. Prayer plants earned their name from the resemblance of their folded leaf night posture to hands clasped in prayer. These movements demonstrate that plants actively engage with their environment rather than passively enduring it. The jungle floor is a slow-motion dance of phototropic adjustment. Ancient civilizations once thrived in the Amazon jungle. Contrary to the long-held assumption that the Amazon was always sparsely populated wilderness, mounting archaeological evidence reveals that complex societies with large populations once flourished throughout the region before European contact. Remote sensing technology has discovered geometric earthworks, raised agricultural fields, and settlement patterns indicating organized societies with engineering capabilities and social structures rivaling those of other ancient civilizations. Population estimates for the pre-contact Amazon continue to rise as more sites are discovered, with some researchers suggesting millions of people once lived there. These societies developed sophisticated techniques for managing the forest, including the creation of anthropogenic soils and the deliberate cultivation of useful tree species. European diseases spreading ahead of direct contact may have devastated these populations before chroniclers could document them. The jungle that Europeans encountered was actually recovering from collapse rather than pristine wilderness. Modern indigenous peoples preserve fragments of this ancient knowledge in their forest management practices. The Amazon jungle contains layers of human history yet to be fully understood. Terra preta is a fertile dark soil created by ancient peoples. Scattered throughout the Amazon basin, patches of remarkably fertile black soil called terra preta mark the locations of ancient human settlements, where generations of inhabitants created conditions that transformed poor jungle earth into permanently productive garden plots. These soils, enriched with charcoal, pottery fragments, bone, and organic waste, retain their fertility for centuries or millennia after the communities that created them disappeared. Modern farmers prize terra preta for its productivity, which far exceeds surrounding natural soils. Scientists study these ancient soils, hoping to understand how they were created and whether the techniques could be applied to improve degraded agricultural lands elsewhere. The charcoal component, created by low-temperature burning, appears to be particularly important for creating stable soil structures that retain nutrients. Some researchers estimate that terra preta soils may cover significant portions of the Amazon that have not yet been surveyed. These anthropogenic soils demonstrate that humans can enhance rather than deplete tropical forest ecosystems. Terra preta stands as a gift from ancient peoples to the present. The jungle is still revealing hidden archaeological sites. Advances in remote sensing technology, particularly LiDAR, that can penetrate forest canopy to map ground-level structures, continue to reveal previously unknown archaeological sites hidden beneath jungle vegetation across the tropics. Recent surveys have documented extensive urban complexes in Central America, Cambodia, and the Amazon basin that were invisible to ground-level observers, but clearly visible when tree cover is digitally removed. Some of these hidden cities rival their more famous counterparts in scale and sophistication. The technology has transformed archaeology, allowing rapid survey of areas that would take decades to explore on foot. New discoveries are announced regularly as more regions are scanned. The revelations challenge previous assumptions about population densities and social complexity in tropical environments. Many sites remain unexplored beyond their initial detection, promising continued discoveries as resources become available for ground truthing remote observations. The jungle preserves secrets that technology is only beginning to reveal. Beneath the green canopy lie traces of worlds we are only starting to understand. Some jungle vines are used to make natural medicines. Indigenous peoples throughout tropical forests have developed extensive pharmacopoeias of medicinal plants, with climbing vines contributing numerous important remedies that are increasingly studied by modern pharmaceutical researchers. Ayahuasca, prepared from jungle vines, has been used ceremonially for centuries and is now being investigated for potential psychiatric applications. The rosy periwinkle vine provides compounds used in treating childhood leukemia and Hodgkin's disease. Traditional medicine systems often combine multiple plant species in preparations whose complexity challenges simple chemical analysis. The knowledge required to identify, prepare, and use these medicinal plants has accumulated over countless generations of careful observation and experimentation. As jungle destruction proceeds and traditional cultures change, this knowledge faces extinction along with the species themselves. Documenting traditional plant medicine has become an urgent conservation priority. The pharmaceutical potential of unstudied jungle vines remains essentially unknown. Each lost species potentially represents lost cures. Certain beetles can lift objects many times their own weight. Dung beetles and horned beetles of tropical forests can move loads exceeding 1,000 times their own body weight, making them among the strongest animals relative to their size on Earth. This extraordinary strength results from the mechanics of small size, where muscle cross-sectional area decreases more slowly than body volume as organisms shrink. Dung beetles roll or drag manure balls to underground chambers where they lay eggs, their strength allowing manipulation of material from animals thousands of times larger than themselves. Horned beetles use their strength in contests over mates, with males wrestling to throw rivals off branches. The exoskeletons of beetles provide excellent leverage points for powerful muscles, and their multiple legs distribute forces efficiently during lifting and carrying. Scientists studying beetle strength have applied principles to robotic design and construction equipment. The humble dung beetle provides essential ecological services by burying waste that would otherwise accumulate on the forest floor. These miniature powerhouses demonstrate that size does not determine capability. The jungle breathes with a daily rhythm of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Tropical forests participate in a planetary respiration cycle, absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen during daylight photosynthesis, while reversing this exchange through respiration at night. Global monitoring stations detect these daily fluctuations in atmospheric gas concentrations as forests around the world cycle between net production and consumption of respiratory gases. The Amazon alone processes billions of tons of carbon annually through this continuous exchange. During daylight, intense photosynthesis in the canopy produces oxygen that mixes into the atmosphere while carbon is temporarily fixed in plant tissues. At night, plants continue respiring without photosynthesis, consuming oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide until dawn restarts the cycle. Seasonal variations in this exchange can be detected in atmospheric measurements taken thousands of kilometers away. The daily breathing of the jungle connects local processes to planetary atmosphere. Understanding this exchange is crucial for predicting how forests will respond to climate change. The jungle breathes for the planet. Some jungle trees have roots that grow above ground for oxygen. In waterlogged or poorly drained jungle soils, where oxygen cannot penetrate to underground roots, various tree species have evolved aerial root structures that access atmospheric oxygen directly. Mangroves growing in coastal swamps send up pencil-like pneumatophores from their underwater root systems, each functioning like a snorkel for the suffocating roots below. Some freshwater swamp trees develop knee-shaped projections that loop above the water surface for gas exchange. Epiphytic roots dangling from canopy plants never touch soil at all, absorbing moisture and nutrients directly from humid air and rainwater. The prop roots of certain palms and the strangular fig descend from branches to reach soil, providing both structural support and resource acquisition. These aerial root systems create distinctive jungle landscapes that look alien compared to temperate forests. The roots may host their own communities of mosses, lichens, and small animals. Walking through a swamp forest means navigating among breathing roots that blur the boundary between underground and overhead structures. Certain plants release scents that change throughout the day. The fragrances of tropical flowers are not static, but change dramatically over 24-hour cycles, with different scent compounds released to attract different pollinators active at various times. Flowers that attract daytime butterflies may produce sweet floral scents during bright hours, then shift to musty or fermented aromas at night when moths and bats take over pollination duties. Some flowers produce no detectable scent during the day when visual signals suffice, but become powerfully fragrant after dark when visual cues are useless. The chemistry of floral scent is remarkably complex, with dozens or hundreds of different compounds combining in precise ratios to create distinctive aromas. Plants must produce these chemicals at significant metabolic cost, suggesting strong selective advantage from appropriate timing. The changing scents create invisible landscapes of attraction that shift with the rotation of the earth. Perfume and flavor industries draw extensively on jungle floral chemistry. The air of the jungle speaks a chemical language changing with the hours. The jungle supports more bird species than any other habitat. Tropical rainforests harbor the greatest diversity of bird species on Earth, with single reserves sometimes containing more species than entire temperate continents. The Manu Biosphere Reserve in Peru has recorded over 1,000 bird species within its borders, approaching the total for all of North America. This extraordinary diversity reflects the variety of habitats, food sources, and niches available in tropical forests from floor to canopy. Different bird species specialize on particular heights, food types, and forest structures, partitioning resources finely enough to allow coexistence of many similar species. The constant warm temperatures and year-round productivity support resident bird populations without the seasonal migrations that redistribute temperate species. Fruit, nectar, insects, and other bird foods are available throughout the year, sustaining specialized feeding strategies that would fail in seasonal climates. Many tropical bird families have no representatives in temperate regions at all. The colors, songs, and behaviors of jungle birds have inspired human cultures throughout the tropics. Some jungle insects communicate using vibrations through plants. Beyond the sounds audible to human ears, countless jungle insects conduct complex conversations through vibrations transmitted through plant stems and leaves that our unaided senses cannot detect. Tree hoppers, planthopers, and many other insects produce vibrational signals by rapidly vibrating their abdomens against vegetation, creating substrate-borne waves that travel along plant surfaces. These signals carry information about species identity, sex, location, and reproductive readiness. Some caterpillars produce vibrations to warn rivals away from their feeding territories. The vibrational landscape of a jungle plant may be as complex as the acoustic environment audible to humans. Scientists recording these signals with sensitive equipment have discovered communication systems of surprising sophistication. Some plants may even respond to insect vibrations, raising or lowering chemical defenses based on vibrational cues. The silent jungle is actually buzzing, with conversations conducted through a medium we cannot directly perceive. This hidden world of vibrational communication was unknown until recent decades. The diversity of jungle life is still being discovered. Despite centuries of scientific exploration, tropical forests continue to yield unknown species at rates that show no sign of slowing, with biologists estimating that many more species remain undiscovered than have been described. Intensive surveys of individual jungle trees have documented hundreds of arthropod species per tree, many previously unknown to science. New mammals, birds, reptiles, and amphibians are still being found annually, along with countless invertebrates. The pace of discovery is limited primarily by the number of scientists working to document diversity rather than by any shortage of new species to find. Remote areas remain poorly surveyed, and recent expeditions to previously unstudied regions consistently produce long lists of new species. Even familiar jungle territory yields new discoveries when examined by specialists in particular groups. The true diversity of tropical forests exceeds our current ability to comprehend it. Each new species discovered represents another thread in the web of jungle life. The jungle remains unexplored territory despite all we have learned. New species are found in jungles every year. Scientific journals publish descriptions of thousands of newly discovered species from tropical forests annually, evidence that biological exploration is far from complete even in this age of global connectivity and satellite imagery. Expeditions to remote jungle areas routinely return with specimens that cannot be matched to any known species, requiring formal description and naming. Many new species are discovered not in the field, but on museum shelves, where specimens collected decades ago await specialist examination that reveals their distinctiveness. The rate of new species description has actually accelerated with improved access, better preservation techniques, and molecular tools that reveal cryptic species invisible to traditional methods. Some newly described species are common within their ranges, overlooked simply because no specialist had examined them before. Others represent genuine rarities that may be known from single specimens. Each new species named represents a small victory in the race to document life before habitat destruction erases unknown forms forever. The jungle is one of the oldest ecosystems on Earth. Tropical rainforests have persisted in some form for over 100 million years, evolving during the age of dinosaurs and surviving the asteroid impact that ended the Cretaceous period. Fossil evidence shows that the general structure and climate of tropical forests has remained relatively stable through epochs that saw massive changes in temperate regions. The long persistence of stable conditions has allowed extraordinary specialization and diversification, contributing to the exceptional biodiversity of modern rainforests. Ancient lineages of plants and animals survive in tropical forests after disappearing from other regions, making them refuges of evolutionary history. Some jungle tree families trace their origins to Gondwana, the ancient southern supercontinent that fragmented to form today's tropical landmasses. Walking through a tropical forest means walking through a living museum of botanical and zoological history. The age of these ecosystems makes their current destruction particularly tragic, erasing diversity accumulated over geological time. The jungle represents one of Earth's most enduring biological achievements. Every breath you take carries oxygen from jungle trees. The oxygen we breathe cycles continuously through the atmosphere, and a significant portion of newly produced oxygen enters the air from the photosynthesis of tropical forest trees thousands of kilometers away from where we eventually inhale it. While estimates of exactly how much atmospheric oxygen comes from rainforests vary, the contribution is substantial, particularly from the vast expanses of the Amazon and Congo basins. The same global circulation that carries rainforest moisture inland also distributes the oxygen released during photosynthesis around the planet. This atmospheric connection links the breathing of every Earth creature to the processes occurring within distant jungles. Though our personal oxygen needs could theoretically be met by local vegetation, the reality of atmospheric mixing means that jungle air is everyone's air. The destruction of tropical forests thus affects the atmosphere breathed by people who will never visit these regions. Our respiratory systems connect us to ecosystems we may never see. Every inhalation is a reminder of our dependence on the green world. Jungles remind us of the quiet power of growing things. In a world increasingly dominated by human construction and activity, tropical forests represent the ultimate expression of what life can achieve without human assistance, building cathedrals of living wood that rival any human architecture in scale and complexity. The jungle grows silently, patiently adding layers of life upon life, creating structures that persist for centuries through the simple accumulation of countless small additions. Trees do not hurry, yet they accomplish feats of engineering that inspire human architects and engineers. The jungle demonstrates that growth does not require noise or drama, that patient accumulation over time can produce results no sudden effort could match. This quiet persistence offers lessons for those willing to observe and reflect. The jungle achieved its wonders not through struggle, but through simple continuation, each day adding slightly to what existed before. As you rest, consider this. Somewhere in the darkness, the jungle continues its patient work of growth. The quiet power of growing things continues through the night. The green world continues its work while you rest. As you settle towards sleep, tropical forests around the globe continue their patient processes, independent of human observation, but connected through atmosphere and ecology to every living thing on Earth. Somewhere, leaves are unfurling toward the morning light, while elsewhere, nocturnal creatures are beginning their searches through the darkened understory. Roots are quietly extracting minerals from tropical soils, while fruits are falling into flooded forests for wading fish. Somewhere, a jaguar is stalking prey, while macaws settle into roost holes. The jungle does not sleep, merely shifts between day and night communities that together maintain the endless cycle. This vast green engine of life requires nothing from us, but continues providing services that sustain the planet regardless of whether we acknowledge them. Let the thought of distant forests working through the darkness accompany you toward rest. The jungle continues. Growth continues. Life continues, patient and persistent as the forests that have endured for 100 million years. Let the green world carry on its work while you drift peacefully toward dreams. And now, the quiet wonders of the jungle begin to gently fade into the stillness of the night. You have wandered through over 100 peaceful truths about these magnificent green realms, from the towering canopy to the shadowed forest floor, from glowing fungi to rivers that boil, from jaguars with crushing bites to sloths draped in living algae, from butterflies drinking tears to ants that farm their own food. You have explored how jungles create their own weather, how trees communicate through hidden networks, how creatures have evolved brilliant strategies for survival, and how so much life can thrive in a single acre of forest. You have learned that beneath the endless green, there are layers upon layers of wonder. You are connected to this story more deeply than you may realize. Right now, as you listen, jungles are breathing on the other side of the world. Trees are releasing oxygen. Rivers are flowing. Creatures are calling in the darkness. The work of the forest continues without pause, as it has for millions of years. If your eyes feel heavy now, let them close. Let the rhythm of your breath become steady, like the gentle pulse of the forest, like the quiet hum of life that never stops growing. Tonight, as you rest, the jungle continues its quiet work. It will guard its secrets, nurture its creatures, recycle its rain, release its oxygen, and wait patiently for dawn to break through the canopy once more. You are a small, warm presence within this vast green world, peacefully resting among the wonders. Sleep well, sweet dreams, and may you carry with you the quiet knowledge that you are never truly alone, for the jungle is always breathing, always growing, and always connected to you through the air you breathe. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the mysteries of the jungle. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Drowsy Discovery for more soothing explorations of the natural world. There are more wonders waiting, more secrets hidden in the canopy and the quiet corners of the forest floor, more gentle truths to drift through on quiet evenings. Rest well, and may the gentle wisdom of the jungle keep you company through the night. This has been Drowsy Discovery. Good night.